engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Minot State Professional Communications Department proudly brings to you the Striha Sports Podcast with your host, Parker Striha. Hello and welcome back to the Striha Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Parker Striha, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking to a former offensive lineman for the Minot State football team. I'm by no means a professional, but I do love talking about sports, so thank you for joining me. He was one of the premier offensive linemen in the entire NSIC during his time at Minot State, starting 29 games for the Beavers. He may soon also see his professional dream come true. Today, I am joined by Mr. Troy Kowal. Thank you for joining me today, Troy. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Parker. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for coming on.
Happy to.
Yeah, so before I get too into it, I would like to thank KMSU for sponsoring my podcast, giving me this nice podcast room to use. And I would also like to thank Web Western for sponsoring me. That's the cool hat I'm wearing I got from them. Go on their website. You can use code ParkerStria and get 10% off all of your purchases. But yeah, so just getting right into it, I do have 5 quick get-to-know-you questions that I ask everyone. So without further ado, we'll just jump right into number 1. What is your favorite type of pizza?
Oh, I'm a big pepperoni and Italian sausage guy. That's what my mom got from Domino's when we were growing up. And when I get mine at $6.99 at Papa John's, that's what I get, definitely.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I'm always a big pepperoni guy myself. Number 2, what is your favorite NFL team? But if you don't have a favorite NFL team, what is your favorite overall sports team?
Favorite NFL team, Seattle. I was actually born there, so that's kind of why I'm a Seahawks fan. But overall, I'm a San Jose Sharks fan pretty hard. And it's been a tough year. We did not win a lot of hockey games.
And not a huge hockey guy myself, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's always fun to root for the underdog, even if they have potential to be good in the future.
I hope so. I hope we get Bedard. I don't know if you know who Connor Bedard is, but he's going to be unreal. Like Connor McDavid, the second coming, basically. So.
Yeah, so number 3, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I'm a pretty slow guy, so I choose probably speed. It would probably just help me in life. I'd like to know what speed's like and what it's like to run faster than I can. So.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Always nice to be able to move a little bit faster, depending on how fast you want to go, I suppose. Number 4, and this one has been kind of a contentious one. I think there has been one definite answer every time I've asked someone this. Are you team LeBron James or team Michael Jordan?
You know, I'm a hockey guy, so I don't really have a preference, but I would say MJ just because he was the first one to kind of have a shoe, and I'm a big shoe guy, so I got a lot of Air Ones and stuff. And yeah, I would say Jordan probably, but
nice. Yeah, I think he has been the answer for every single person I've asked. Mm-hmm. They've given LeBron his flowers, but yeah, it's been a pretty consensus MJ.
It'd be interesting to see them play like prime LeBron versus prime like MJ. It'd be like prime McDavid versus prime Wayne Gretzky. Right? It'd be cool to see.
Yeah, just a battle of art, probably the 2 greatest of all time, depending on how you look at it. But lastly, what is your favorite song?
Sandstorm by Darude. I'm a big like EDM guy, and hockey, that was our like pump up before the game, and kind of stuck with me. I love that song.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad song. I personally haven't heard it in a while, but it's never a bad listen to when it's on.
You should get in the car with me. It plays probably once a day.
There's nothing wrong with that. So just jumping right into it, I do have the rest of my interview questions. So just jumping right in with question 1. Before we really get into everything else, could you kind of give me a quick rundown of your playing career and when you started and what position you played up until, obviously, your time here at Minot State?
Yeah, so I played in high school for just 2 years. I played high school volleyball my first 2 years in Canada, and then I played tackle and D-line for my team. And then when I got here, I was redshirted. I didn't see the field, but I traveled a lot in 2017. And in 2018, I got my first start. Played like 9 games that year or something. Maybe not 9, might be high, but I started 2 the year after, then COVID hit, and then I started 15 straight for the Beavers. I appeared in 29, like you said, games over my career. 15 were those straight starts without missing a snap until I got hurt. So I played a lot of games here. I've seen a lot of football and played some guys in the NFL and played with a guy in the NFL. So saw some cool stuff, and it was a really fun and exciting career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure when you came to Minot State, did you expect to be here for, I believe, 5 seasons? Obviously COVID kind of threw a wrench into everything, but was your plan, I'm going to come in, play 4 years and I'm out, or is it you kind of knew that redshirt year and something like that was coming?
I kind of expected it. When I got here, I was 250 pounds, and I never really worked out till I was till done senior year of football in high school. So I was really just kind of this small, scrawny kid. So I was expecting a redshirt. And so 5 years I was kind of expected. The 6th year was kind of a surprise with COVID, but I was happy to do it. It gave me an extra year to get bigger. But no, it was kind of expecting the redshirt. Wasn't expecting to travel like I did. I only traveled because I was a positive guy, and they called me a cheerleader, basically. Happy to do it, right? But I expected the redshirt. I mean, it's honestly, people think it's a bad thing. It's really a good thing. You get a year to get better. You learn how to manage your time. It's tough to travel and manage your time as a freshman, right? So it's a good thing to redshirt. And I think kids that look at it negatively should look at it positively, because it will benefit you down the road more than it will hurt you.
Yeah, perfect. So kind of going into that, I know you're from Canada, I believe also. Are there any differences between how football is played in Canada, whether that's high school? I don't know if there's a lot of college football teams up in Canada. I don't really know a whole lot about Canadian football. And then also, of course, the CFL. So are there any differences between the United States football and Canada?
There's a few big differences. So our field's bigger. It's longer and wider. I don't know the width part, how much wider it is, but I know it's 10 yards longer. So we have 250s, and there's a center yard line. So there's 10 more yards in the middle of the field. Your end zones are going to be about 20 yards deep, and the goalposts are the front.
Oh.
So it's a little different. You got 3 downs. You can have 2 or 3 guys, slot receivers, running back, with forward motion to the line of scrimmage before the ball snapped. They have a yardage they have to be within. The 3 downs, right? I said that. Points, you can get more points in the CFL. So if you kick on a kickoff through the back of the end zone, you get a point for your team. So there's a lot more scoring, right? And then some other small rule changes are field goals. If you don't want to return it, so you kick a field goal and I don't want to return that, I'm going to say I'll take that at my 35. And that's where you start the next drive.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little more of a high-scoring style of football in Canada. It was a lot of fun in high school. We didn't win any games in high school, honestly. I won 20-something.
Oh.
But it was fun because we were scoring points. Our goal was to get 10 points a game. We know we're not going to get a touchdown every game, but we're going to get a field goal, and we know we can kick some balls through the end zone if we're lucky. So there's points out there. It's high pace. It's fun, and I'm really excited to try and get back into it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, like I said, I've never really watched any of it, but I definitely think that sounds fun to watch. I think it'd be really cool to see just a different level of football and a different type of football than I'm personally used to. But, as an international student and player, what was the recruiting process like for you coming to Minot State? I'm assuming it's not much different than it would be down here, but I'm obviously not a scout or anything like that. So I'm just kind of curious how that all worked out.
Well, for me, I was on a website, Next College Student Athlete, and I wasn't really getting interest. I was getting some JUCOs and D3s, and I was about to go JUCO. But Nick Nissen found me, the old line coach, online. So that was kind of it for me. I wasn't really good enough to play college football in Canada. My grades weren't good. School's a lot tougher up there. They gotta have really good GPAs, and I did not. So it was kind of if I play football, I play football again. Was kind of thing. And I had a mental breakdown the day that Minot State called me, so it was kind of good timing. But it was different. I didn't have the best film. We don't have stadiums like the Herb, that high school, Bishop Bryan plays at, and Minot High, very similar stadium, right? We had the bleachers that we carried over from baseball field. We picked them up and carried them to the football field so people could watch, right? So it was different, but it was, when I got the film out there, it was enough that I could get looked at a little bit. It was definitely probably tougher than down here, but it was a cool experience. I got to talk to schools in California and New York, and I grew up in Boston for a few years, so I talked to the school out there. So it was kind of cool to see where you could go, and I'm glad I ended up here, but it was a different experience, I feel than the guys down here get.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely an interest. I've never really thought how different that could be, and obviously with how different it is up there. I mean, I'm sure that's just, for coaches and yourself, it was just kind of a whole different process. And I know we kind of spoke on this a little bit briefly earlier, but so during your time here at Minot State, you unfortunately did have to deal with that COVID, with the whole season being canceled, I believe, and it did give you an extra year of eligibility. But being Canadian, how did the virus and everything affect your ability to get in and out of the country? And what was it like also being told that you would be losing that whole season?
Well, so getting in and out of the country is, I left, they told us schools getting shut down, and I texted my coach to say, hey, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I'm not really wanting to get stuck here if I'm going to be stuck here for months with my family. If they're going to be locked down too, I'm going home. So I went home, and that was fine. And then COVID, obviously, everything happened. I came back 2 months later because it was opening up down here. But going back, so we had this season coming up, and they canceled it. That was wild. We were getting ready for fall camp, and the bubble was still up, and I was like, they called a team meeting one day, and I was like, yeah, this is not going to be a good team meeting, guys. And so they canceled. It was kind of a shock to everybody, but once we kind of settled down, like we kind of like, honestly, I think we went out and partied that night because we were like, we don't have a season anymore. Like, we've all been getting ready for the season for months, right? And so after that, we kind of stepped back and we looked at what we could do, and we practiced 15 times or something, and we got at some work. And it wasn't a season like the season's way more fun. Like you have a game to look forward to, but like that whole year, we just like looked forward to the next season, and it was a long year of just practice and hitting the same guys, and probably a few more fights than we normally had. But just tempers build up, right?
Yeah.
But then going home, I did have to get vaccinated to get into Canada. And you have to fill out like an arrive before thing, like a week before, so they know I'm coming and where I'm driving through, basically. So it was tough. It was a pain in the butt. I had to get COVID tested, and the main reason I got the vaccine was to go home, right? And I didn't have to test for football, but I had a test to go home, and I had a proof of it. And it was a pain in the butt traveling like across the border. But once you're in Canada, it's not bad. They make you isolate, but it wasn't that bad. It was tough going home, but that was about it. I mean, I couldn't imagine it's tougher if you were flying somewhere, because I drove. Like I was like, I'm getting in the car. At least I don't have to wear a mask, right?
Yeah.
But if you flew, you had to wear a mask. I flew home at Christmas, and I wore a mask for 12 hours, and I did not like
miserable. I couldn't sit on a plane with a mask on for that long, especially knowing how hot planes and everything.
Well, I got to Denver, and I had a gaiter on from Minot, and I was like, this is good. But some guy at Denver made me put on like an actual mask. And then the second I got on my plane, I put back on the gaiter. And they were okay with the gaiter for the most part. But some places were picking. If you didn't have a gaiter, my ears would just hurt.
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously was just, when COVID started, I was just about to go into my senior year of high school. So obviously much different circumstances than a college football player from, Canada and stuff. But definitely not a joy to put up with by any means, obviously. But
but it's God's bonuses. Like I know, like we all like say it sucked and all, but like good things happened out of it, right? Like you got an extra year of school, or for guys like me, like I got an extra year to work out and hang out with my friends down here, basically, right? Meet people like you who I probably would have only met for a semester, basically, right? So there are benefits to it, as crappy as that 2 years was, and if your China just ended like a month ago, so that sucked, but there's benefits to it, and I mean the world's probably gonna be shaky for a little bit, but we'll be okay. And I mean, you learn something, right? You learn a new hobby or something. So it could have been worse, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, there's always a bright side to everything, even a global pandemic, which sounds kind of weird to say. But, also during your time here at Minot State, your last season was cut short after only a few games due to an injury. So, I mean, what was going through your mind after that? And did you have hope that you'd be able to make it back for even one more game so you could kind of go out on your own terms, so to say?
Yeah, so the injury actually started week 1, and I played the next 3 games. So I played 4 weeks on it. But when it happened, like it was just a little tear in my meniscus, like nothing major, like I could live with it. And then as it progressed, it got better to the point where I was like, treatment was like twice a week instead of every day. I was in there for hours at a time. And then that, like at the game at Southwest, it kind of just popped again, and it was kind of like the final pop for the meniscus. And then they made me get an MRI, and so when they're MRIing the meniscus, like right away, I did an X-ray to make sure nothing was broken in my knee, and I was like, okay, that's good, like just the meniscus, and like, because you get that cut out and be back in 2 weeks, and I was like, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm like, perfect. And when the MRI came back, it was a lot more than just meniscus, so there's no cartilage in my knee. So it's kind of David Goggins had it. It's like a thing you get when you're 50 or 60. I just got it when I was 24, right? And it sucked. I had hopes on playing again. Like my buddies were playing, right? Just lose playing with your friends who you played with for 6 years. But I mean, I got to go to practice every day still and see the boys and learn from another role, maybe like step back and help a little bit. And so there are benefits to it. As much as I want to get back out there, I mean, body wasn't able to, so step up and do what you can to help your team. That's kind of what I did. And it was still a really fun year to hang out with the boys. And
so you were obviously still very invested in, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Very invested with the team, still in everything. You just obviously couldn't participate in a lot of stuff because of the knee, and unfortunate that had to happen in your last year, only a couple of games in.
I know, especially after like a COVID year, like it couldn't happen during COVID, like when there's no games.
Oh, exactly.
No, it happens, right? And stuff happens, and that was the luck I was given. But I mean, I still had a great year, and I only missed 3 games throughout my whole career here as a Beaver that I wasn't at. So for 2 of them come my senior was a little tough, but it was still a really cool year, and it was fun to see my friends like play their last few years of football and play with them. So
yeah. So I know you and also fellow Minot State football player Philip Green started a podcast, and I think you kind of brought it up earlier, in the spring of 2021 called the Mental Game Podcast. Could you give me a backstory on that podcast and why you guys decided to start it?
Yeah, so Philip's a lot more smarter than I am. Studious maybe is the word I'm looking for. He's an honor student, and for one of his classes, they had to do like something to help prevent mental health, or like awareness. There you go, awareness for mental health. And Philip came to me because like we were doing hockey and basketball games together at the time for the school. He's like, "You want to do this with me?" I was like, "Yeah," and we were in broadcasting every day together. So I was like, "Why not?" Right? And so we started doing it, and it was kind of fun for a little bit, and it started getting like some more traction. And we were getting raising money for Hayden Hurst's foundation, and the Prairie Sky was donating us money, and we were there, and it kind of just took off, and we got a Severide award for it. Phil did a great job. He's done most of the work, so like credit him for all of it. But it was really cool because, you know, everyone has their mental health battles, and to kind of listen to other stories to kind of like help me like understand that, oh, hey, I'm going through the same stuff, so like I can relate. And it was really a tool for me to help myself, but also understand that like everyone goes through stuff. Like, you know, like the world's a tough place, and it was just nice to know that if I'm going through it, someone else is going through it. But there's always like a way to get out of it, and there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So it was really good to have, and it was a fun. We did it for like 2 years. It was fun 2 years doing, and I just kind of hit the Mevo button, but talked a little bit. But it was really fun and cool to hear people talk about experiences and what helps them, right? So
yeah, and I don't think there was a better topic you guys could have chosen for something like that. Obviously, regardless of if it's for a class or not, mental health is definitely a huge topic that I think needs to be talked about. And I think when a lot of people look at it, they almost kind of see athletes at any level as just kind of almost, maybe not robots, but like they don't necessarily feel the same emotions as quote unquote regular people, or however people look at it. And I think it's definitely awesome. I've listened to a couple of the episodes. I think you guys had one with former head football coach Mike Aldrich, and it's just nice looking at that stuff because then you can kind of see that, okay, these people, they're not superhumans. They're not things like this where they have the same problems, the same struggles that I have or that I'm having. And it definitely helps just kind of everyone just kind of relate to one another. It's not all individualized, even though some of it may feel like it is.
And like, just because we're athletes, like it doesn't just happen to athletes, it happens to everybody, right? Every time, I always said, every time that a pro athlete steps out and says they have it, it's like just shine more light on it. Like, hey, these guys aren't just like robots, like you said, right? Like I used to think Joe Thorne, my favorite hockey player, was a robot. Because like he played a playoffs on 2 like torn MCLs or something. Like he wore knee braces and just played through it. And I'm like, that is a robot. But like that must have been tough mentally. Right? It's like something I didn't think about till like 2 years ago. And it is important for people to understand that these guys are stressed out of their mind. Probably like they get paid millions of dollars, but millions of people yell at them if they mess up.
There's so much going on that isn't just the game, and I don't think a lot of people realize stuff like that.
Yeah, because they go through practice, like they would do what we do, but they do it all day, every day. Like I would be tired from that, and then you gotta go play on Saturday or Sunday. Like, yeah, you play for the game because you love the game, but they probably get burned out fast, right? Because their life is they live, breathe, and die, or like live, breathe, and die by the way of the game. So.
And kind of looking back at that, with both of your, I mean, obviously, I believe you're graduating. Is it this just a week or 2 weeks or so? And Phil, I believe, is, I don't know if he's graduating this spring or if next semester will be his last.
He was at Christmas this.
Oh, he already did.
He was
graduate.
at Christmas this year or last spring, and he's almost done his master. He'll be done his master's next December, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. But like I said, with both of your times at MSU ending soon, are there plans to continue the podcast in the future, or is that kind of just, it happened, we're just going to let it kind of be its own thing and kind of something like that?
You know, we never really talked about that, but I think it's something that we could get back into, definitely. Like, we're both kind of just about to start our lives, so we might need to take a break for a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if it started up again, or like Phil starts it up somewhere where he ends up, because he's very skilled at it, and he wants to have his own show, so I wouldn't be surprised if it came back at some point down the road, but not right now that I know of. We have any episodes coming up, so.
Yeah, I know, like being a professional communications major myself, kind of going into a different topic, I know you two were also both very active in the department. What kind of sparked your interest particularly in professional communications?
So right away, Don Cherry, if you know who Don Cherry is,
I think I've heard the name.
He was a hockey guy who wore the colorful suits all the time. He was on Hockey Night in Canada growing up. So I got to meet him when I was like 10. I wrote a paper on why my mom's the best hockey mom, and like 100 kids won. We got to go meet him and have lunch with him and our mom or whatever. And so that kind of did. And I always liked sports. And I don't know, it just seems like a great way to stay in sports, whether like a podcast like yourself or you're working behind the scenes in a truck or anything. Like, it seems like a good way to get into sports. And by being hands-on on like school stuff, like I learned everything. And now I could probably produce a hockey. I'm pretty confident if I had to produce a hockey game, I could make it run pretty decent. It's not going to be Hockey Canada, but it's going to be good, right? And so, I mean, the hands-on experience was awesome, and it's the way to stay in sports primarily for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you just kind of briefly just noted like the hands-on experience, and our department itself offers obviously a multitude of possibilities for students, like our campus TV show Inside Out, which I know you were a part of. I'm currently a part of. The auction we put on every year, and also the doubleheader basketball game that we do every year. How important do you think those opportunities and events are for the younger students like myself just getting into the field, but also how important were they for you as you progressed through college and through the department?
Yeah, so the hands-on, I talk to recruits all the time. I'd be like, hands-on broadcasting is the best thing ever, because like I get to go do what you see on TV every day in class. Like I get to learn how to do it. I mess up, who cares? I'm going to learn how to fix it, right? It's very important. So you like when I was in the show with you, like I was a senior, whatever. Like this is my last one or whatever. I got to see people how they did it. Now I learn from them, right? You kind of like give back to the younger students, because I was in the show for 4 years probably. I took it every chance I got to. It was an awesome experience, right? It's fun, and learning different roles. Like I was a weatherman, the sports guy, producer, floor director. Like I got to do it all, and that's what's probably the most important is testing all those out. Because like I was like, I kind of want to be in front of the camera like Don Cherry until my last one, I was the producer and the floor director. And I was like, I don't think I ever want to step in front of a camera again. I think I like yelling at people. I kind of liked having the headset on, like hearing Dante, and like me and Dante could talk, and I enjoy that stuff. So you get to try it all out and learn what you really want to do. Like I thought I wanted to be in front of a camera till about a year and a half ago. Now I'm like, I want to be behind the camera, whether I'm running the camera or I'm talking to someone. Like that's what I want to do. And you learn, right? So it's important. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we obviously definitely need people behind the cameras, because without them, nothing goes.
No, because they set up the shots, right? You can't see what you're like look like. Yeah, so.
And yeah, so kind of what do you have any goals for what you'd like to accomplish in the communications field now that you are finishing your time here at Minot State?
Yeah, well, when I get to it, I'd like to get into sports and TSN in Canada, whether it's football or hockey or golf or whatever. But like my dream job is to work for the Golf Channel and be a cameraman or an audio guy on the course, and just like walk the courses and try and portray the courses how you are there. Because like if you watch Masters, like Augusta looks hilly on the TV, but like if you're at Augusta, like the hills are massive compared to it. So I like the chance to help tell the story of what's going on at a tournament. Like that's kind of the dream, and I'd love to get into that. I don't know how you get into the Golf Channel, but I'm going to start trying to figure it out soon here. And yeah, that'd be the goal for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to try.
Why not, right? What they're going to do is tell me no.
Yeah. But yeah, and I'm just kind of changing the topic again, but this is something I particularly really wanted to talk about when I kind of reached out about this interview. Is I heard that you recently competed at and had the ability to showcase your talents at I believe it's an invitational combine for the Canadian Football League at the beginning of March. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that was the first stage in the CFL Combine circuit they did, or maybe the second, but it was the first for Canadians. So they have a global combine they did, and then that was for 70-some Canadians they invited. So there are guys from the NCAA like myself and a bunch of guys from U Sport, which is Canadians College Athletics. And I was still not cleared yet by my surgeon for my knee, so I just went and bench pressed and talked to the guys and get to know some people. But it was a really cool experience to like see how a pro like football organization, like the CFL ran it. Like there was teams were there and scouts and stuff. And it was really cool to see how like pro level athletics works compared to college. Like like high school's here, college is here, but then like pros up here, right?
Way up there.
Even like Canadian pro, like the football is up here, right? And so it was cool to take that in and like see how it works and see how it operates. And they ran like a month later, they had their second, which is their bigger one. Like they had 20 international guys and 80 Canadians there. They ran that one, and I watched a little bit of that one. It was very similar to mine, but it was a really cool experience, and I got to go and I talked with the team when I was up there, and I made some new friends, and it was really cool to just like I got a T-shirt that says it has a number on it and stuff, and it was just like a cool experience, like your kid, you dream of that stuff. So to do it was like a dream come true. Yeah.
So like, what were your emotions like when you did receive the invitation to come to that combine?
I kind of cried. I couldn't jump, and I wanted to. I wanted to like jump with joy, but I cried a little bit. I told my family. Told my family, and then I had to get ready. I had to work out. I worked out with Brody Myers for it. So I was training for it already. But I was so pumped to get it. I already was pumped thinking about it. But it was pumped to get it because that's the first step towards the draft, which is tomorrow night. So it was exciting to get that because I knew it was on a radar of teams because like it says you're invited because like teams want to talk to you or meet with you or see you in person at least, right? So it was cool to go to.
Yeah. So like what – obviously I'm not in any of that stuff. I obviously watch a lot of stuff like that, but I'm not behind the scenes on that. But what has the process looked like following the combine? Like, have there been teams contacting you? I know you've said you've been preparing for stuff like this, but like, what does that whole process look like as you try to get ready to go to a professional level of football?
It's like kind of like getting recruited out of high school again. A little more less say on my part. Like, I don't get to pick where I go. But I have an agent, so me and my agent basically have been trying to sell myself to teams since that day. So like I was there just kind of like teams see me like I'm a pretty big person. Compared to Canadian football players, I'm still a pretty big person. So just like that was good. And then he would talk to teams. He went to the second combine, was talking to teams, and I've been in contact with a few teams since then, and like phone calls and a few like a Zoom meeting with one, and like phone interviews with different scouts and stuff. And so kind of just getting ready for like teams are just kind of like want to know me and pick my brain, and then just kind of getting ready for whatever's next and like learning how it works. Like I have to learn all these, like the CBA, I had to go through that when I signed with my agent. I had to learn how like the contract works with him and stuff. And it's a really cool experience. It is like getting recruited out of high school again, but definitely less say and maybe a little more stressful, I'd say, because there is a lot more moving parts, I feel like, because there's a lot that I don't know going on still.
Yeah.
And my agent does, and he might not know something that's going on. So.
Yeah. And like you said, the CFL draft is tomorrow. So like, how have you been mentally preparing, knowing that you could hear your name called by a team tomorrow?
Well, there's like ups and downs. Because I don't know. I'm projected 7th round right now, and there's 8 rounds. That was the last mock draft that came out. So excited just even if my name gets called. I was just pumped to be on the mock draft board because I only played 4 games. So kind of going from thinking I'm a undrafted free agent if I get a chance, or even going to play college ball in Canada again next year to, okay, maybe have a shot. And I don't know. I know linemen are needed because you need so many Canadians on the field at a time in Canada. And they like to stick Canadians on the field at O-line just because it's easier to get skilled receivers probably. But, I mean, just prepared for whether I go before I'm supposed to go or after, or if I don't go at all, like just prepared to thank whoever's there, like watching it with me, like thanks for coming, and know that there's another step. So, like, even if it doesn't go my way tomorrow, like there's something else that I can go do. So I can still go play football. Yes. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? So
yeah. So I'm assuming you do have some sort of a draft party set up then, or something similar?
Yeah, I'm going to have the guys come up tomorrow to the press box. You're welcome to come if you want to. It's 7 to watch it on YouTube, I think, and see what happens. Projected 7th round. It's a little quicker than the NFL draft. They rifle them through, but yeah, I watched it with the guys. We did with Seabass last year. We watched an NFL one. Not as long, hopefully. Like we were there for a while, and 7th round was late, but it'll be quicker, and it'll be good to like kind of sit with the guys I went through everything for 6 years with, right, and 4 years or whatever it was, and yeah, it'll be good to hang out with them and see them and watch it. My family came to town, so
yeah, I think I'll definitely, as long as I have time, I'll probably definitely come up there and cheer you on. But you don't have to say a specific team, but is there a team that you're hoping you get a call from, or you hope picks you up if you don't unfortunately get drafted? I don't know any of the team names, so I mean, you could really say anything and I just would kind of know or just shake my head. But is there one team that you're hoping gets you?
I don't know if I'd say one. I mean, I'd go anywhere. Like, I'm happy to go anywhere and just keep playing football. I have like a top 3, like Calgary, the Stampeders, that's home. Like, I grew up 45 minutes south of the city, so it'd be cool to play for like the hometown team. Saskatchewan's 4 hours north of here. Like, it'd be so cool like to play 4 hours away where my buddies can come watch and stuff. And then Winnipeg's 5 hours, so it's not far either. So anywhere really, but I'm a West Coast kid, so if I stay in Western Canada, I'd be happy. But if I go out east, I'll be happy out east too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely hoping you do get your name called, or at least get signed if you don't get drafted, because that's either way, that's a really big deal. But kind of moving away from those, I do have kind of just miscellaneous questions that I thought of that didn't really fit with a lot of those themes that I was just kind of covering. But just kind of starting off, I saw that you are a referee for USA Hockey. So could you kind of explain how that started and how that's going, I suppose?
Yeah, I'm no longer reffing. I used to ref, but I ref for about 10 years. I started when I was in Canada. My dad was an NHL referee. So when I was like 12 or 13, you have to be 14. When I was 13, I was pretty big. I was 12 turning 13. They let me ref a year before, so I started when I was 13. And I love reffing hockey. Like it's like being the floor director. I get to yell at people again, right? I got some power, so I like that. And it's a way to once again stay in the sport that I grew up playing. I grew up in Canada, obviously, and as a hockey kid. And when I got down here, I wanted to keep reffing. I did for the first 2-3 years I was here. I worked some Beaver games and some high school hockey, so I saw some good hockey down here, and it's a lot of fun. Like you get paid to go skate basically. And as someone who grew up in Canada skating every weekend, like I was like, sign me up. So it's fun. It's a really cool experience, and I don't know if you ever get a ref, like you get the power, right? It's fun to have the power and make the calls, and if you do a big game and you make a big call that you're like, yeah, I sold that. That was a great call. Like, it's a good feeling, right? So.
Yeah, kind of moving on. So this is more, the next couple questions are more so just kind of MSU, like Beaver centric. So who was the best player or best players that you've played against during your time here at Minot State?
The best, so there's two players that I remember playing against that in the NFL. So Gunnar Olszewski, who's a receiver now for the Steelers, was a DB for Bemidji. And I don't think I say I blocked him, but I don't know if I ever touched him. He was on the field, I think, with me my first start, and he probably ran right by me. I remember watching film on him, and I hope I don't have to stop him at the second level. He was dangerously fast. Very good receiver and return man, obviously. And then Chris Garrett, who played at Concordia St. Paul, was a 7th-round pick in 2020 from the Rams. And so the week before we played him, their defense had 16 sacks or 7. They beat Moorhead pretty bad.
In one game?
Yeah, well, he had 5 alone.
Good grief.
So this guy's already, he already led the nation in sacks, and then he gets 5 more. And then it's like, I started the week before it was my 21st birthday. We played on a Sunday and lost to Winona pretty bad. It was a bad road trip, like bad weather. But then like we get home on Monday and we get the scouting report Tuesday and it says 17 sacks as a D-line. And then the next page, this guy's got 5.5 by himself and like 2 strip sacks. And I'm like, I have to block this guy?
That's a lot of pressure to put on an offensive line.
I was a redshirt sophomore. I was like, I have to block this guy. And like, so me and Seabass, like all week were just like, they were kind of just like ripped. Like I was filling in for injury. So like, there was supposed to be a senior playing him, but it's me. And they were just kind of like ripping on us, trying to like find something in us. And then like that game came around and their D-line had 0 sacks and we upset them. So it was like, it was at home too. It was my first time my mom saw me start. And I would still to this day think it was my greatest game. And it was the coolest one I played in by far.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely. I mean, the pressure that gets put on an offensive line when something like that happens, and then you guys obviously shut them down and win, which is always awesome. And kind of on the flip side of that, what teammate or teammates were your favorite to play with or just be around while you were here at Minot State?
So it might be a long list. This was a long time. When I was a freshman, Brody Myers, the strength coach, was a senior. And so I learned from him and the other tackle, Chris Carnes, and then Eric Basalda, who was a senior when I played in 2019 when he got hurt. I learned from those 3 quite a bit when I was young, I was learning how to be an O-lineman, basically. And those were the 3 guys I picked it up from. But, I mean, throughout the years, there have been, like, Zach Cunha was a great quarterback here. Then he was a professor and a coach of mine. So, like, I've known him for a while. And that defense, when I was in, like, the 27 Minot State defense was terrifying. As a scout, like a freshman offensive lineman every day, Elijah Mosley put me on my butt 2-3 times a day. And a linebacker would smack me from the side. I wouldn't even see it happen, right? And I'd say that defense, like the starting 11, unbelievable. And there's been a lot of great teammates and coaches over the years here, right? And like Jordan Will, Jay Will, he's got a brother now, Trey Will, on the team. And yeah, just some great teammates and been fortunate to play with a lot of teammates over the years, right? And some really good people.
Yeah. So then kind of moving on, this is more so just like a you as a player thing. Are there any players that you've tried to model your game after or are continually trying to model after?
I always joke. I've had 3 O-line coaches, and I've always joked that I'm going to block like Joe Thomas because he goes like outside bicep, like because he's just so strong, and then like inside hand. And they're like, why don't we just work on hands inside? But if I had to pick, I'd say Joe Thomas. He was just played so many games in a row. Like I feel like everyone should strive to never miss a snap. So
yeah, I mean he is, I think without a doubt, one of, if not the greatest left tackle of all time, depending on, obviously people can have their own opinions, but
it's hard to argue that he isn't when he played all those, his first missed snaps when he got hurt. Like it's hard to argue that. And
Iron Man for sure.
In Sebastian's class last semester, he was who I wrote my a lot of papers on. I was like, why would he not? Like it was just too easy for me to write about Joe Thomas. And
yeah. Well, I got 2 more questions left, but one is, so obviously you mentioned earlier Sebastian Gutierrez was the first Beaver to make it to the NFL since Randy Hedberg and I believe the 70s, and he is currently a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. He was also the starting left tackle during your final years here while you were the starting right tackle. Have you talked to him at all about how to prepare for an event like the Combine and like the draft that is tomorrow?
Yeah, we've talked a lot. So he was a tight end when I was a freshman. He was a year older than me. But then when I was done redshirting, he got moved to tackle, and like we were kind of battling for right tackle with the transfer they brought in. So me and him became really close, and we still talk quite a bit. Yeah, he was like, when I got the Combine invite, I texted him right away too, and he called me and told me what it'd be like because it'd be very similar to pro day at NDSU. And then like for tomorrow, like we've talked a little bit about like what his emotions were last year, what mine might be tomorrow, and just kind of what to expect because it is probably gonna be a long day because it's not till 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So I'm gonna wake up whenever I wake up, and it'll be a long day, right? Ups and downs, and he's been a good, like, he's done it all. He's been a good guy to lean on and learn a little bit from. So, yeah, it's good to have him ahead of me.
Yeah, and I mean, the experience and stuff he has, obviously, even only being a year older, that experience is you can't get anywhere else, and I'm sure that's definitely been super helpful. And he's also a guy that I'm currently going to try to get on my podcast eventually. I know he's now in the NFL, obviously, so his schedule is very busy. But so last question is just, is there anything else you would like to add or talk about before we end this off?
No, I'm just thankful you invited me. I'm just happy to, be here and come do this podcast. I love the setup, the temporary setup. Like, I'm excited to see Hartnett next year. I'm so jealous I'm leaving. Hartnett gets redone. But yeah, no, I'm just thankful you had me on, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for
also
coming
nice
on.
jersey, by the way.
Appreciate it. I've been getting a lot of love for it today. Definitely saved a lot of money when I bought this. The place I bought it from was going out of business, so everything was like 75-80% off.
Yeah.
Got this jersey for like $40 when it's normally like $130.
Had the same one when I was like 10 or something. One of my uncles gave it to me. His kid had one, like it was the actual jersey, and they were just like, they don't fit anymore. And I might still have them back home, but I have the same one. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a big jersey guy. So I mean, I got this one. I got Nash. I have.
So you wear a jersey to class most days, huh?
Yeah, I got Steve Nash. I got Derrick Rose, Kevin Garnett, Julio Jones, Joe Burrow, and obviously I have.
The Joe Burrow one goes hard. You wore that to class a few times last year. I was like, that goes hard, yeah.
And then I have a Bo Jackson one that's a little too small, Paul George, and then I think Jordy Nelson and Carson Wentz are my last two. But
Any hockey jerseys?
I don't know enough about the teams or anything, so I don't know what player to get. Otherwise, I've looked into getting one. I think I actually have like a Minot State, just it's more of like just an ordinary Minot State thing. I don't know if it's really a specific hockey jersey. It looks like one.
Yeah.
Thing is massive on me though. The arms are, no joke, probably that wide.
Yeah.
Barely. I mean, body fits well, but then my arm looks like it looks so out of place.
For me to wear a hockey jersey now, like I wear like a 3XL hockey jersey, but the arms are like super long and big. Yeah, no, it's like they're meant to be worn under or over the pads,
there's meant to be something underneath there, and I don't got enough on these to go underneath there. But
it's like they think we're going to play hockey with them.
Yeah. But yeah, this is all I have for you guys today. Once again, I would like to thank Troy for joining me. I'd also like to thank KMSU and Web Western for sponsoring my podcast. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you all next time. Peace.